What if history is hiding something we were never meant to uncover? From temples older than recorded time to artifacts that challenge the laws of physics, the ancient world is filled with puzzles modern science cannot solve. No matter how advanced our technology becomes, these mysteries remain untouched, silent witnesses to a forgotten truth. For the next hour, step beyond textbooks and into the unknown. This is the side of archaeology you were never taught. Imagine a place untouched by time. No human has ever set foot there. No paths lead to it, and it has remained unchanged for millions of years. This isn't science fiction, it's real. These are the tepui, massive sandstone mesas that rise straight out of the South American jungle like colossal sky fortresses, towering into the clouds. In the language of the indigenous Pemon people, tepui means house of the gods, and indeed, they resemble self-contained worlds adrift in the sky, where life has evolved along entirely separate paths, completely cut off from the rest of the planet. These mountaintops are the last remnants of an ancient plateau, and more than just a natural wonder, tepui is a gateway into Earth's distant past, a world floating in the sky, untethered from the present, and perhaps never having left the primeval age at all. What do you think might be hidden on those floating islands, isolated for millions of years? A species never before recorded, an ecosystem beyond imagination. Share your boldest theory in the comments below. Who knows, you might be the one to predict it before science does. Tepuis are far more than just tall mountains. They are colossal sandstone formations with vertical cliffs hundreds of meters high, as if a piece of the Earth's surface had been sliced off and lifted into the sky. There are no natural paths leading to their summits. No animals or humans can easily cross this rugged terrain. Only the hardiest plants, the tiniest creatures, and the most daring scientists have ever reached these isolated mountaintops. It is this absolute isolation in elevation, terrain, and climate that has turned each tepui into a sky island ecosystem, completely cut off from the world below for millions of years. While the rest of the Earth has continuously changed through ice ages, climate shifts, and mass extinctions, the tepuis have remained almost unchanged. These mountaintops are not only monuments to the passage of time, but also guardians of a primordial version of life, preserved as if untouched by the modern world. Thanks to their absolute isolation over millions of years, the tepui summits have become birthplaces and sanctuaries for entirely unique species, found nowhere else on Earth. Some mountaintops span only a few square kilometers, yet they are the sole habitats of frogs, mosses, or insects that have never been recorded beyond those peaks. Much like how the Galapagos Islands inspired Darwin's theory of evolution, the tepuis are considered a colossal natural laboratory of evolution, but even more extreme and inaccessible. Here, species have not only evolved to cope with harsh conditions, humid, cold climates, nutrient-poor soils, relentless rain, but also to survive in total isolation. Some tepui frogs spend their entire lives in a single puddle atop the mountain, never leaving it. Certain species of carnivorous plants grow only on the steep cliffs of a single tepui. Every living organism here is like a letter in an undeciphered biological manuscript, and each scientific expedition is another page turned in the unfinished book of evolution. Geologically, the tepui summits are remnants of the Guiana Shield, one of the oldest geological formations on Earth, formed during the Precambrian era, more than 1.7 billion years ago. This makes the tepuis not only biologically valuable, but also a living fossil of the Earth's crust. The rock layers here, still preserve traces from a time before multicellular life existed, when the oceans were the only world. Standing atop a tepui, where millions of years of rainfall have carved out streams and waterfalls like Angel Falls, the tallest waterfall in the world, you are standing on bedrock older than the Himalayas or even the North American continent. Each rock layer in the tepuis is a cross-section of Earth's history, untouched by modern tectonic shifts, allowing scientists to study the planet's early ages directly, without having to dig deep into the ground. For the Pemon people and many other indigenous tribes of South America, the Tepui summits are not merely mountains. They are sacred lands, home to gods, ancestral spirits, and mysterious beings. They believe that those who dare to climb a tepui never return, for it is a place where time stands still and where life transforms in ways humans cannot comprehend or withstand. Some legends even claim that the tepuis were the only lands untouched by the great primordial flood, when the entire world was submerged beneath water. It was atop these isolated peaks that primordial life was preserved, as if nature had entrusted its deepest memories to these biological vaults in the sky. To the indigenous peoples, the tepuis are more than just physical formations. They are the birthplace of cosmic order, a realm separate from the ever-changing world of mortals. The absolute isolation, majestic appearance, and mysterious atmosphere surrounding the Tepui plateaus have become an endless source of inspiration for writers, filmmakers, and even scientists in the realm of speculative fiction. In Arthur Conan Doyle's novel, The Lost World, the Tepuis are depicted as a place where dinosaurs still survive, a land forgotten by time. The awe-inspiring image of the Tepuis was also recreated in Pixar's animated film Up, where the iconic Paradise Falls was modeled after real Tepui mountains. But beyond artistic inspiration, for modern scientists, the Tepuis represent a gateway to new understandings of evolution, climate, and Earth's deep history. In a world where most of the planet has been altered or explored by humans, the Tepuis remain the final strongholds of untouched wilderness, where every rock layer and living organism has the potential to reshape what we think we know. Each Tepui summit is like an isolated planet, and in fact, most of them remain largely unexplored. Harsh terrain, extreme weather, and natural inaccessibility have meant that scientists have only surveyed a very small portion of these colossal mountaintops. This leads to an exciting truth. We still don't know what might be up there. Could there be entirely new species that have never been recorded? Could there be ancient fossils that might rewrite the history of life? Or perhaps even a vast network of mysterious caves hidden deep within the ancient stone? These questions remain unanswered, and the Tepuis continue to challenge the curiosity, patience, and spirit of exploration in the next generation of scientists. Tepuis are not just mountains, they are lands beyond time, preserving the planet's most ancient memories and sheltering truly unique life forms. In a world that is growing hotter, more crowded, and increasingly unstable, the Tepui summits are like the Earth's final whisper of the primeval past, reminding us that some places don't need to change to survive. They only need to be respected and protected. They are a living legacy that nature has entrusted to the future, and a profound test of humanity's patience and stewardship. Forget everything you know about ancient Egypt. Beyond the towering pyramids and the watchful gaze of the Sphinx lies a secret so grand, so complex, that even the ancients were left in awe. Hidden beneath the sands near a forgotten pyramid, this colossal structure was once hailed by Herodotus, the father of history, as the most magnificent building he had ever seen, surpassing even the Great Pyramid itself. A building with 3,000 chambers, some above ground, others buried deep below. A monument so intricate that it inspired legends of impossible mazes. And yet today, it is almost entirely gone, swallowed by time. What was this place? Why was it built? And why has it vanished so completely? Welcome to the mystery of the Egyptian labyrinth, a lost marvel of engineering, myth, and forgotten ambition. If this labyrinth was truly more impressive than the pyramids, why don't we talk about it more today? Do you believe Herodotus really saw what he claimed? Or was the Egyptian labyrinth just a legend passed down through exaggerated stories? Let us know what you think in the comments below. Could the greatest structure of ancient Egypt still be buried beneath our feet? Herodotus, often regarded as the father of history, traveled extensively throughout Egypt during the 5th century BCE. His works provide one of the earliest detailed accounts of the civilization's monuments, temples, and customs. But among his many observations, few are as dramatic or as puzzling as his description of the labyrinth. In his monumental work, Histories, Herodotus recounts his visit to the site near the city of Crocodilopolis, modern-day Fayum, where he claims to have seen a structure of such immense scale and architectural complexity that it surpassed even the Great Pyramid of Khufu. He writes, "It has 12 courts covered in, with gates facing one another, 6 upon the north side and 6 upon the south, joining on one to another, and the same wall encloses them all. The rooms are of 2 kinds. There are underground chambers and chambers above ground, and their number is 3,000, of each kind 1,500. Herodotus further elaborates that he was not permitted to see the underground chambers, as they were the tombs of kings and sacred crocodiles. But he did explore the upper structure, which left him speechless. The columns, he notes, were of white stone, exquisitely fitted, and the walls were engraved with countless carvings. The sheer scale and precision of the place baffled him. How could a civilization from so long ago create something so complex? According to Herodotus's account, the labyrinth wasn't just big, it was colossal. The 3,000 rooms were arranged with such geometric precision that navigating it would have been almost impossible without guidance. The roof was made of a single stone slab, he said, and the walls were decorated with scenes of Egypt's rich mythological and historical tapestry. To understand the scale Herodotus describes, imagine a building the size of a large city block, with room after room, hall after hall, interconnected by winding corridors, dead ends, and hidden passageways. It wasn't simply a palace or temple, it was, as the name suggests, a true labyrinth, a structure designed to disorient and overwhelm. He even claimed that just seeing the upper structure of the labyrinth was enough to leave a deeper impression on him than any monument he had seen in Egypt, including the famous pyramids. This is significant, coming from a man who had witnessed some of the most legendary wonders of the ancient world. Modern scholars believe that the Egyptian labyrinth Herodotus described may have been located near Hawara, at the entrance to the Fayum oasis, adjacent to the pyramid of Pharaoh Amenemhat III of the 12th dynasty. Indeed, archaeological evidence suggests that a massive stone platform, approximately 300 meters long, once existed in the area. British archaeologist Flinders Petrie excavated the site in the late 19th century and uncovered fragments of what could have been the labyrinth's floor plan. He found corridors, chambers, and a vast foundation of limestone blocks, enough to suggest that a sprawling structure once stood there. Yet, there was no trace of the columns, ceilings, or intricate decorations Herodotus so vividly described? Could it be that the labyrinth had long since been plundered, its stones recycled for other building projects, as was common in ancient and medieval Egypt? Or did Herodotus perhaps exaggerate or misinterpret what he saw? Herodotus wasn't alone in referencing the labyrinth. Later writers such as Strabo, Diodorus Siculus, and Pliny the Elder also mention this incredible structure. Strabo, writing in the 1st century BCE, corroborates Herodotus's claims, stating, "It is a work equal to the pyramids and surpasses them." Pliny added that Daedalus, the mythical inventor of the labyrinth in Crete, supposedly visited the Egyptian labyrinth and was inspired by it. These accounts add weight to the theory that the structure did once exist, even if time and conquest have erased most traces. One of the biggest debates surrounding the labyrinth is whether Herodotus was describing a real physical structure or whether the labyrinth was also a symbolic or religious allegory. Some theorists suggest that the labyrinth was a ritual space designed not just to confound the body, but to initiate the soul into spiritual mysteries, perhaps tied to the afterlife or the worship of Sobek, the crocodile god. Others posit that Herodotus may have seen ruins and, based on oral traditions or local guides, reconstructed a mental image far grander than what actually stood there. Still, the consistency among various ancient sources suggests that something monumental once stood at the site, whether a literal labyrinth or a symbolic construct. In recent decades, interest in the labyrinth has been rekindled. In 2008, a team known as the Matterhorn expedition, led by Belgian researcher Louis de Cordier, used ground-penetrating radar at Hawara. Their findings were intriguing. A complex of underground structures still lies beneath the surface, potentially untouched. However, the Egyptian authorities restricted access to deeper excavations, and official reports downplayed the findings. This has led to speculation and controversy, with some suggesting that the labyrinth's secrets may still be buried, just waiting to be rediscovered, perhaps even intentionally suppressed. If the labyrinth truly existed, as Herodotus described, it would not only be one of the largest ancient buildings ever constructed, but potentially a repository of lost Egyptian knowledge. Could it have housed records, scrolls, or artifacts lost to time? Could it explain the mysterious architectural precision of other Egyptian monuments? The fact that the pharaohs chose to build something so massive, yet seemingly without leaving a clear textual record of its purpose, only deepens the mystery. Was the labyrinth designed to protect the tombs of kings, to safeguard knowledge from foreign invaders? Or was it meant to challenge the very limits of human perception and endurance, turning space itself into a spiritual trial? To this day, the Egyptian labyrinth remains one of the greatest enigmas of antiquity. Despite references from multiple classical historians, its physical remains are elusive, and modern archaeology has yet to confirm the full scope of its existence. Whether it was a majestic architectural feat, a mythologized memory, or a spiritual construct, Herodotus's account continues to ignite the imagination. His description is so vivid, so specific, and so filled with wonder that it demands attention, even if only as a glimpse into how the ancient world perceived greatness. Could we one day unearth the full remains of the Egyptian labyrinth? Could it alter everything we thought we knew about Middle Kingdom Egypt and its architectural capabilities? Tiny statues, giant questions. What if everything we know about history is wrong? One summer day in 1944, at the foot of El Toro Mountain in the small town of Acámbaro, Mexico, a man stumbled upon something that could shake the very foundations of human history. Not gold or silver treasures, not temple ruins, but tiny clay figurines buried deep underground for millennia and shaped like nothing anyone could have imagined. Dinosaurs, hybrid creatures, mythical beasts, and even humans riding on the backs of prehistoric monsters. The discoverer, Waldemar Julsrud, a German merchant, claimed he had collected over 30,000 ancient figurines, each more bizarre and puzzling than the last. They didn't belong to any known culture. They didn't fit into any historical timeline ever recorded. And most importantly, they shouldn't exist. Not if everything we know about evolution, dinosaurs, and human history is true. Mainstream scientists fiercely rejected the claims, but the more they denied them, the more the Acambaro figures sparked curiosity and suspicion. Because if they were fake, who could have created a lie of this scale? And if they were real, perhaps we've forgotten an entire chapter of history that was never meant to be lost. What if an ancient civilization once lived alongside dinosaurs, and we've just uncovered the very first clue? Or is it all an elaborate hoax, crafted to make the world question its own memory? Do you believe the Acambaro figures are real, or just a legend shaped by imagination? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your perspective might be the one to help unravel this mystery. Nothing about the Acambaro figures stirs more controversy than the appearance of dinosaur models, creatures believed to have gone extinct 65 million years ago, while modern humans only emerged about 300,000 years ago. So why, in a ceramic collection believed to be thousands of years old, do we find shapes resembling Stegosaurus, with its backplates, long-necked sauropods, clawed theropods, and even winged pterosaurs? Even more baffling, some figurines depict humans riding dinosaurs, a scene that shouldn't exist if we follow mainstream evolutionary timelines. Some researchers argue that the creators of the Acambaro figures may have simply imagined such creatures. But here's the problem. In the 1940s, scientific knowledge and public imagery of dinosaurs were still very rudimentary. It wasn't until many decades later, with more fossil discoveries and reconstructions, that accurate dinosaur shapes became widely known. So how could a rural artisan in Mexico sculpt such precise forms of creatures that weren't fully understood until the late 20th century? Another argument claims this could be a modern hoax. But if that's true, who could have produced over 30,000 distinct figurines in varying styles and techniques? And why choose something as unbelievable as humans riding dinosaurs, a concept even most forgers wouldn't dare try to sell? These questions remain unanswered. And it is this paradox, ancient dinosaur sculptures, that transformed Acambaro from a curious archaeological site into one of the greatest unsolved mysteries of the 20th century. The number of Acambaro figurines exceeds 30,000 artifacts, an almost unimaginable figure when considering the limits of handcrafted production in a rural, mid-20th century setting. Each figurine is made of clay, with a distinct form, from humans and animals to imaginary beings and bizarre hybrids. Some are only a few centimeters tall, while others reach nearly a meter in length. Remarkably, there appears to be no repetition or use of molds. Every small detail, clothing, weapons, patterns, symbols, is uniquely and finely carved. If this were all a hoax, the creator would have to be not only a master sculptor, but also require a large team, modern tools, and many years of labor, all without leaving any trace of production, records, or equipment. This very contradiction has deeply divided scholars. Either this is one of the greatest archaeological hoaxes ever staged, or it is truly the remnant of an extraordinary civilization, long forgotten. One of the most hotly debated issues surrounding the Acambaro figurines is their age. In 1968, several samples were submitted for thermoluminescence testing, a method used to determine the last time a ceramic object was heated. The results were shocking. Some artifacts were dated to as far back as 2500 BCE. If accurate, this would imply that clay figurines depicting dinosaurs, creatures believed to have gone extinct tens of millions of years ago, were crafted by humans during the Neolithic period. However, mainstream scientists quickly rejected these findings, arguing that the preservation conditions were substandard, the samples were likely contaminated, and the testing process lacked transparency. Moreover, no officially recognized archaeological excavation has ever been conducted at the site where Julsrud discovered the figures. There were no intact sediment layers, no tools, dwellings, or any supporting evidence to validate such an ancient origin. Even so, supporters remain adamant, believing that the academic world is deliberately avoiding the phenomenon, because if the figures are genuine, the entire narrative of human evolution, archaeology, and the timeline of civilization would have to be rewritten. Another puzzling feature of the Acambaro figurines is their inexplicable cultural diversity. Many of the statues display facial features, clothing styles, and decorative details that vary dramatically, from Native American, African, and Asian appearances to figures that resemble Viking warriors or ancient Egyptian priests. If the residents of a small town in central Mexico were indeed the creators of these artifacts, it raises a crucial question. Where did they draw inspiration to envision faces, symbols, and styles that had no connection to their known world? There is no evidence suggesting they had any contact with distant civilizations. This has sparked a bold hypothesis. Could these figurines represent a lingering collective memory of a lost global civilization, one that mainstream history has entirely overlooked? Most modern archaeologists consider the Acambaro figurines to be a sophisticated hoax, possibly even a psychological stunt, designed to attract attention or build a name. They argue that no independent excavation was ever conducted at the reported discovery site. There was no stratigraphic analysis, no discovery of tools, dwellings, or human remains, all of which are crucial for verifying the authenticity of an archaeological site. All the artifacts seem to exist solely within the private collection of Valdemar Julsrud. However, the undeniable existence of tens of thousands of uniquely shaped figurines, combined with the major paradox of dinosaur depictions, remains a mystery that cannot be fully dismissed. Whether genuine or fabricated, the Acambaro phenomenon continues to puzzle academia and forces us to admit something truly unusual lies beyond the boundaries of our conventional understanding. Today, the Acambaro figures are more than archaeological artifacts. They have become a symbol of a never-ending clash between two worlds, the world of mainstream science and that of alternative thinkers who believe history still hides untold chapters. Were the Acambaro figures created to challenge academia, or are they a truth too bizarre to accept? And if they are genuine, it could mean that humans once lived alongside dinosaurs, or that an ancient civilization somehow retained knowledge of them in ways we cannot yet explain. What about you? Are these strange figurines just modern inventions or ancient whispers from a forgotten truth? Drop your thoughts in the comments. You might be the one who helps rewrite history. Before Egypt, Babylon, or even the Great Flood, there may have existed a city believed to be the place where wisdom from the heavens was bestowed upon humanity. At the heart of that city stood a temple, not merely for worship, but possibly a center for preserving knowledge, technology, and even secrets about the origin of mankind. This was the ziggurat of Enki, a place where history, mythology, and ancient theories converge into a mystery yet to be unraveled. What do you think about this theory? Was the ziggurat of Enki just a typical religious temple, or could it have been a vault of knowledge or even technology belonging to a forgotten civilization predating the Great Flood? If you had the chance to excavate this site, what would you hope to discover most? Share your thoughts in the comments. According to the Sumerian king list, one of the most controversial ancient texts of Mesopotamian civilization, there is a statement that has astonished scholars for centuries. When kingship descended from heaven, it was first granted to Eridu. This isn't merely poetic religious language, it's a bold historical claim. Eridu was the very first city of humankind, the place where civilization was bestowed by supernatural forces. It's no coincidence that this city is also referred to as the home of Enki, the god of wisdom, creation, and knowledge. At the heart of Eridu stood the ziggurat of Enki, believed to be not just a temple of worship, but a place that housed the me, the divine principles that govern the universe and society. According to many theories, this structure was not merely a religious monument, but could have been an ancient center of knowledge and technology where advanced understanding, far beyond its time, once existed, even before the Great Flood and the official beginning of recorded human history. In the Sumerian mythos, Enki, also known as Ea in Akkadian culture, was not a god of war, vengeance, or domination. On the contrary, he was the god of water, creation, intelligence, engineering, magic, and the secrets of the world. He was the one who created humans to help the gods with labor, who saved humanity from the Great Flood in an older version of the Noah story, and who held control over the me, abstract principles that shaped the order of the cosmos and society. If you imagine a deity who holds the source code of the universe, it would be Enki, and the temple dedicated to him, the ziggurat at Eridu, could not have been just a religious structure. It may have been a repository of knowledge where the me was stored, or in modern terms, a database, a technological archive, perhaps even a medium of communication between humans and higher beings. Mainstream history often suggests that human civilization began around 10,000 years ago, during the Neolithic period, with the rise of agriculture, permanent settlements, and the invention of writing. However, Sumerian mythology tells a very different story. According to the Sumerian king list, Eridu existed long before the Great Flood, ruled by kings whose reigns lasted tens of thousands of years. This has led many alternative scholars to pose a bold question. Could there have been a prehistoric civilization, perhaps even one with advanced technology, that was wiped out by natural disaster or the passage of time? And if that theory holds any truth, then Eridu may be the key. Not Egypt, not Babylon, but this modest mound in the desert, home to the ziggurat of Enki, could have been the true center of that ancient civilization. A center not merely of religious worship, but possibly one that safeguarded knowledge, technology, and ideas far ahead of its time, now forgotten in the tides of history. In the architectural history of Mesopotamia, the ziggurat stands as one of its most iconic symbols, a tiered temple tower built for humans to offer sacrifices and commune with the gods. However, few realize that the very first ziggurat, the prototype for all that followed, was the temple dedicated to the god Enki in the city of Eridu. From this origin, ziggurat architecture gradually spread to major centers, like Ur, Uruk, and eventually reached its peak in Babylon, the site of the legendary Tower of Babel. Though later ziggurats became larger and more grandiose, many researchers believe they also gradually drifted away from their original purpose. While ziggurats in Ur or Babylon often symbolized royal power and the dominance of the elite, the ziggurat of Enki in Eridu may have been a more modest structure, yet held profound spiritual meaning, a place of meeting between early humankind and the god of wisdom. It wasn't built to display political might, but rather served as a gateway between the human world and the source of knowledge, where Enki shared with humanity the earliest principles of life and the cosmos. In many ancient reliefs depicting the god Enki, he is often portrayed with two streams of water flowing from his shoulders, symbolizing the great rivers Tigris and Euphrates. What's striking is that within these streams appear two intertwined serpents, a mysterious and symbolic image. This depiction has led many to draw parallels with the caduceus, now recognized as a symbol of medicine and healing. Is this merely a coincidence, or could Enki, the god of wisdom, have also carried deep knowledge of healing, restoration, and life itself? Some scholars propose that the ziggurat of Enki may have once served as a repository for ancient medical practices, healing techniques, and even biological knowledge far ahead of its time. Given that Sumerians believed Enki held the secrets of the world, the idea that he possessed profound understanding of the human body and life processes seems plausible. Perhaps what we know today is only the visible tip of a massive iceberg of lost knowledge that once existed in the distant past. Today, the site believed to be the ruins of the ancient city of Eridu lies at Tel Abu Sharain in southern Iraq, a dry, overlooked region compared to more prominent centers like Ur or Babylon. Archaeological excavations have uncovered layers of mud bricks, primitive architectural foundations, and traces of an ancient temple, but all are in a state of disrepair and fragmentation. No structure remains intact, and notably, there is no inscription or ancient tablet that definitively confirms this was the ziggurat dedicated to the god Enki. This ambiguity has opened the door for a wave of mysterious theories and speculation. Many independent researchers ask, why hasn't a city said to be the first to receive kingship from the heavens been better preserved? Could it be that some evidence was deliberately hidden? Or did nature itself, with floods, erosion, and time, sweep away nearly all traces of a glorious era never fully recorded in history? Whether one believes in myth or not, one thing is undeniable. Eridu and the ziggurat of Enki have inspired thousands of years of religious architecture, philosophy, and humanity's search for the origin of civilization. From the first bricks laid at Eridu, humankind would go on to build cities like Babylon and Ur, and even form the mythic stories found in the Bible and the Quran. Looking back through history, some ask a different question. Are we in fact going backward, returning to the origin to reclaim what was once lost? The ziggurat of Enki, did it truly once serve as a technological hub of a prehistoric civilization? Or is it simply a religious monument, later mythologized over time? The answer remains buried under the sands of Mesopotamia. But the tales of Enki, of Eridu, and of humanity's quest for knowledge continue to live on, reminding us of a time when gods were not just worshipped, but were guides, teachers, and saviors. What are your thoughts on Eridu and the ziggurat of Enki? Could there have been a forgotten civilization before recorded history? Share your theories in the comments. There's an object silently orbiting above us, day after day, night after night. It doesn't transmit any identifying signal, isn't listed on any known satellite registry, and most intriguingly, no one knows where it came from. or how long it's been there. People call it by a name that's both poetic and haunting: the Black Knight satellite. Unlike modern satellites that follow equatorial paths or are tightly managed by space agencies, this object travels in a strange orbit, cutting across Earth from the North Pole to the South Pole, as if it were silently surveilling the entire planet. It doesn't emit any navigational signals, but over a century ago, it may have responded with strange bursts of radio waves. It wasn't launched by any nation, yet it floats in space as if it had been there long before humans ever reached for the skies. Could this be a misunderstood piece of space debris, or is it an ancient machine, strategically placed in a perfect orbit to monitor Earth for thousands of years? That question remains unanswered, and maybe that's what makes it so unsettling. What do you think about the Black Knight? Is it a strange coincidence, a misunderstood piece of space debris, or could it truly be a product of an ancient civilization silently watching us from a polar orbit? Share your thoughts in the comments. You might be holding a clue the rest of humanity has missed. In 1899, while experimenting with wireless transmission systems in Colorado Springs, the great inventor Nikola Tesla encountered strange electrical pulses, which he described as clearly not originating from Earth. These signals didn't match any known sources of transmission at the time, but the mystery didn't stop there. During the 1920s and 1930s, astronomers such as Carl Stormer and Balthasar van der Pol in Europe continued to observe a phenomenon known as long-delay echoes, radio signals that bounce back after an unusually long delay, sometimes up to 15 seconds. In the realm of physics, this is difficult to explain without the presence of a high-altitude intermediary object capable of capturing and retransmitting electromagnetic waves in an active or anomalous way. Some theories propose that there may have been a mysterious object in high orbit functioning as an invisible relay station, something that humanity had not yet built at the time. This was one of the earliest clues that sparked speculation about the ancient presence of the Black Knight in the sky, long before the launch of the first artificial satellite. Before the launch of Sputnik, the world's first artificial satellite by the Soviet Union in 1957, there were already mysterious reports from the US military about an unidentified object orbiting the Earth. This became even more intriguing when astronomer Clyde Tombaugh, the discoverer of Pluto, joined a research project to search for Earth's natural satellites and also recorded anomalous phenomena that could not be attributed to any known celestial body or artificial satellite. Data from radar stations and telescopes at the time suggested that an object was moving in a controlled manner, in a stable orbital altitude, yet did not match any publicly known space activity. This lack of explanation sparked decades of speculation. Could a satellite have been orbiting Earth, completely beyond human control, from an era when we hadn't even left the ground? In 1998, during the STS-88 mission of the Endeavour space shuttle, as astronauts were installing the first module of the International Space Station, NASA released a series of space photographs. Among them, one particular image caused a stir: a dark, oddly shaped object floating freely in orbit. NASA quickly explained that it was merely a thermal blanket that had come loose during assembly, but the global reaction was far from unanimous. The shape of the object was anything but simple. It had a complex structure, sharp contours, and looked nothing like any previously recorded piece of space debris. Moreover, its movement and apparent stability in space gave the impression of being controlled rather than just drifting aimlessly. Independent observers and UFO enthusiasts immediately dubbed it the Black Knight satellite, believing it could be rare evidence of an extraterrestrial device or an ancient artifact of unknown origin that had been silently orbiting Earth, unnoticed by humanity for ages. What makes the Black Knight so unusual and difficult to explain is its orbit, completely unlike any artificial satellite created by humans. Most modern satellites are launched into geostationary orbits, where they move parallel to the equator and remain fixed over a specific point on Earth. Others use inclined orbits to cover higher latitudes. However, none of these satellites travel along a north-south path, known as a polar orbit, a special type of trajectory that allows a satellite to pass over both the north and south poles with each revolution. This orbit is highly strategic because it enables a satellite to gradually scan the entire surface of the Earth over time. But in the 1950s and 1960s, placing an object into a polar orbit was extremely difficult, requiring advanced launch technology that no nation had publicly demonstrated at the time. Therefore, if the Black Knight was truly moving in a polar orbit during that era, then either we have underestimated the real extent of early space capabilities, or some other force beyond humanity placed it there long ago. One of the most haunting aspects of the Black Knight theory is that its polar orbit is not only unusual, but strategically significant. A polar orbit allows a satellite to pass over every latitude on Earth as the planet rotates beneath it, enabling full surface observation over time. Today, this type of orbit is commonly used for military satellites and high-precision Earth observation systems. But if an unidentified object was deliberately placed in this orbit long before the modern space age, it implies that its creator must have possessed extraordinarily advanced technology, or may not have been from Earth at all. Could it be a kind of cosmic eye set in place to monitor the evolution and progress of human civilization over thousands of years? And if so, who placed it there, and for what purpose? Although many scientists argue that the Black Knight is merely the result of unrelated phenomena, the mysterious radio signals detected by Tesla, a thermal blanket dropped by NASA, or misinterpreted observations, there remain key elements that keep the mystery alive. Why is its orbit so unnaturally precise? And why is it in a polar orbit, the ideal path for global surveillance, yet incredibly rare during the early days of the space age? The presence of such an object seems to surpass the explanatory power of science at the time. If it wasn't launched by humans, then could it be a remnant of a civilization that came before us, or of an intelligence not from this Earth? While we still lack a definitive answer, the Black Knight has become a symbol of the boundaries of human knowledge, a mystery silently orbiting above us, as if waiting for someone brave and brilliant enough to finally unlock its secrets. In June 1961, during what seemed like a routine excavation in the village of Tartaria, Romania, archaeologist Nicolae Vlasa stumbled upon 3 small clay tablets buried in an ancient grave. At first glance, they looked like nothing more than fragments of Neolithic pottery, but upon closer inspection, the symbols carved into their surfaces sent a chill down his spine. They looked like writing. Not random doodles, not decorative patterns, but a system of symbols, orderly, structured, featuring crosses, circles, and horizontal lines, immediately reminiscent of the cuneiform script of the Sumerians. But there was something shocking. These tablets might have been created over 1,000 years before the rise of the Sumerian civilization. If that's true, then it's not just the timeline of civilization that needs rewriting, but also our understanding of the origins of knowledge, the birth of writing systems, and the overlooked role of prehistoric Europe in that story. So what are the Tertiary tablets really? The first writing of humankind, or just an archaeological illusion leading us to misread our own past? What do you think about this discovery? Could the 3 small clay tablets found in Romania truly be remnants of Europe's earliest writing system, possibly even predating the Sumerians? Or are they simply ritual symbols misunderstood, causing us to mistakenly assign a value to the past that never really existed? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Do you lean toward true writing or archaeological illusion? This is what makes the Tertiary tablets stand out and stir the most controversy. Based on archaeological context and radiocarbon dating, these clay tablets are believed to be from around 5,300 to 5,200 BCE, which makes them at least 1,000 years older than the earliest known Sumerian writing circa 3,200 BCE. If this dating is accurate, it would mean that writing may have emerged in Europe even before the Middle East, and that Neolithic Europeans, particularly those of the Vinca culture, might have developed an independent proto-writing system earlier than any civilization recognized in mainstream history. Unlike random carvings or simple decorations, the symbols on the Tertiary tablets show evidence of a structured system with repeated patterns and deliberate arrangements. While there are too few samples to decode, some scholars suggest that the structured layout indicates an intent to convey information, one of the core characteristics of writing. This idea is especially intriguing, considering that European Neolithic cultures are typically viewed as pre-civilized, lacking both complex social structures and record-keeping systems like those of Egypt or Mesopotamia. If the symbols on the Tertiary tablets are indeed a form of early writing, then our definition of the cradle of civilization must be rewritten, placing Europe on the map as an early inventor of writing, on par with or even preceding Mesopotamia, Egypt, or the Indus Valley. Many of the symbols found on the Tertiary tablets closely resemble markings discovered at other archaeological sites associated with the Vinca culture, which spanned the Balkans, Serbia, Bulgaria, Romania. Symbols such as crosses, diagonal lines, sun motifs, circles, and geometric shapes have been found on pottery, figurines, and stone slabs in ancient graves. Some researchers have argued these were merely religious symbols or simple markings by ancient people. But when these signs repeat consistently across distant regions, the argument that they're just decorative loses strength, especially when compared to the earliest signs of writing in systems like cuneiform or hieroglyphs, which also started from simple, symbolic origins. Thus, if we view the Vinca symbols, especially those on the Tertiary tablets, as part of an unfinished development toward writing, it suggests that Europe may have developed a visual sign language long ago, which was later lost or interrupted for unknown reasons. One of the 3 Tertiary tablets stands out due to a peculiar detail, a hole pierced through its center, leading many researchers to believe it may have been used as a pendant or ritual object. Engraved on its surface are distinctive symbols, sun-like circles, crosses, and spiral lines, all common motifs in prehistoric rituals, often associated with early religion, solar worship, or symbols of life and death. This has given rise to a significant hypothesis. These markings were not meant for everyday communication, but may represent a sacred language used in ceremonial offerings, prayers, or to record spiritual events. The theory becomes even more compelling considering that, within the same archaeological layer, excavators uncovered the remains of a woman, buried alongside ritual objects and animal bones, suggesting a complex funerary rite. Some propose that the clay tablets were grave goods, carrying messages to the gods or the afterlife. This raises a haunting question. Were these symbols a language for the living, or final messages for the dead? Since their discovery, the Trattoria tablets have become the center of ongoing debates within the archaeological community. Some Western scholars have questioned their authenticity, arguing that the tablets were not fired before the symbols were inscribed, raising the possibility that the markings were added later, thereby casting doubt on their original archaeological value. Furthermore, the lack of similar artifacts found within the same stratigraphic layer has fueled concerns that the engravings might be mere random scratches, insufficient to be considered true writing. However, many Eastern European scholars have pushed back against this skepticism. They argue that the symbols on the tablets show a structured and deliberate system of symbolic patterns, consistent with what one would expect from a proto-writing language. Some even propose bold hypotheses. Rather than being influenced by Mesopotamia, the Sumerians themselves may have absorbed cultural elements from the Vinca civilization, suggesting a reverse flow of knowledge from Europe to the Middle East rather than the traditionally assumed direction. If we accept that the Trattoria tablets represent an early form of writing that emerged in Europe, even predating Sumer, then this challenges not only the established timeline of archaeology, but also shakes the very foundations of modern thought regarding the origins of human civilization. For centuries, historical theories have positioned the Middle East as the cradle of writing, centralized government, organized religion, and recorded tradition. However, if a prehistoric culture like the Vinca, often overlooked in mainstream history, had developed a structured system of symbols, it suggests that Neolithic Europeans were not merely primitive hunter-gatherers, but were fully capable of creating complex systems for storing and transmitting information. The pressing question is, why did such a promising writing system vanish? It may have been due to societal collapse, war, natural disasters, or simply because it never reached the level of development needed to survive without the administrative or commercial demands seen in larger civilizations. Whatever the cause, the silence that followed those symbols remains a mystery yet to be solved. To this day, the Trattoria tablets remain delicately poised between archaeology and legend. Whether true texts or sacred relics, they have planted in modern minds a profound doubt about humanity's intellectual origins, suggesting that perhaps an essential chapter of our history lies buried not just by time, but by the very limits of how we view the past. Hidden beneath layers of time and soil in southeastern Europe lies a civilization that could rewrite everything we thought we knew about human history. Long before the pyramids rose or cuneiform was carved into clay in Mesopotamia, the people of the Vinca culture were already building organized settlements, shaping tools from copper, and inscribing symbols onto clay that may represent the earliest known form of writing. Dated between 5700 and 4500 BCE, the Vinca civilization predates Sumer by over 1,000 years, yet remains absent from most history books. Why? Because what they left behind doesn't fit our neat timelines. Their cryptic symbols, urban planning, and artistic sophistication are a puzzle too advanced for the Stone Age. And if their markings truly form a writing system, then everything about where and when human civilization began may need to be reconsidered. Do you think the Vinca symbols could actually be the world's first written language, or were they simply decorative markings that we've misunderstood? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Could history books have missed the real origin of writing? Hundreds of artifacts from the Vinca civilization such as clay tablets, ceramic vessels, and humanoid figurines, have been discovered bearing meticulously engraved symbols. Shockingly, these objects date back to 5,700 to 4,500 BCE, meaning they predate Sumerian cuneiform by over 1,000 years. The symbols are not merely simple geometric shapes. Many resemble early forms of letters or abstract ideograms. When analyzed collectively, they form what scholars now call the Vinca symbols, a structured set that strongly evokes the concept of proto-writing. Unlike random cave drawings, these symbols are deliberately repeated, appearing across a wide range of objects and dispersed over a vast area of southeastern Europe. This has led archaeologists to ask a provocative question. Could the Vinca people have developed an organized system of symbolic communication long before the Sumerians were ever credited with inventing writing? What makes these symbols especially intriguing is their consistency and repetition across space and time. Found at sites such as Vincabello Berdo, Tartaria, Romania, and other parts of the Balkans, many of these signs appear to have been deliberately organized. They follow specific arrangements, often repeated on multiple items, which strongly suggests they weren't random decorations or simple iconography. Instead, many scholars believe these signs could represent a form of proto-writing, a bridge between symbolic art and a full-fledged written language. The debate is intense. Some archaeologists argue the symbols lack grammatical structure, which would rule them out as true writing. But others push back, noting that even the earliest forms of writing, such as Sumerian proto-cuneiform, were largely pictographic and lacked grammar in the modern sense. They argue that writing is not born fully formed. It evolves gradually, beginning with logograms, counting tokens, or religious markings. From this perspective, the Vinca signs could represent a cognitive leap in symbolic communication, marking the point when humans began recording more abstract ideas through visual means. Perhaps most compelling is the context in which these symbols appear. Unlike cave paintings or isolated artistic engravings, the Vinca signs are found in settled communities, often associated with advanced metallurgy, large-scale architecture, and organized social structures. The people of Vinca built planned towns with streets, neighborhoods, and specialized zones for craft production. Their settlements, such as the site of Vincabello Berdo, are among the earliest examples of true urban planning in Europe. The Vinca people not only left behind mysterious symbols, but also demonstrated that they were a culture with remarkably advanced technology for their time. They were among the first communities in Europe to practice copper metallurgy, use standardized units of measurement, and produce ceramics with astonishingly refined shapes and patterns. The combination of material complexity and developed symbolic thinking suggests that they were not merely skilled craftsmen. They may have required a system to record information, from property ownership and religious rituals to community decisions. These are characteristics typically found only in highly developed societies with a clear need for organization and communication. Adding further intrigue, the famed Tartaria tablets, discovered in Romania in 1961, feature symbols that bear a striking resemblance to both Vinca signs and later Sumerian symbols. Some scholars, including Maria Gimbutas and Harald Hamann, have proposed that the Tartaria artifacts could represent the earliest form of European writing, possibly even a precursor to other scripts that emerged across the ancient world. Others remain skeptical, arguing that without a Rosetta Stone or translation key, any interpretation remains speculative. Still, the sheer volume and consistency of the Vinca signs is hard to dismiss. Over 700 unique symbols have been catalogued. Some resemble stylized human figures, while others look like animals, tools, or abstract shapes. Several appear in linear arrangements, hinting at syntax or even rudimentary grammar. Some items even seem to cluster certain signs together more frequently than others, suggesting that users may have been developing repetitive formulas or ritual phrases. Importantly, these symbols were not limited to elite or ceremonial items. Many were found on everyday objects, such as pottery and spindle whorls, indicating that the practice of inscribing symbols may have been a widespread aspect of Vinca life, not reserved for a religious or royal class. This democratization of symbolism mirrors later writing systems, such as those in Egypt and Sumer, where writing eventually permeated multiple levels of society. But if the Vinca symbols are truly a writing system, or at least the seed of one, why didn't it survive? Why did Sumer become the acknowledged cradle of writing, while Vinca faded into obscurity? One theory suggests that the collapse of the Vinca culture around 4500 BCE, possibly due to climate shifts or resource depletion, may have interrupted its developmental trajectory. Without continuity, the knowledge and use of the symbols may have vanished, leaving behind a tantalizing but incomplete puzzle. Another possibility is that Sumerian civilization benefited from greater geopolitical concentration, with cities like Uruk and Ur rising to become major power centers that needed bureaucratic systems to manage agriculture, trade, and labor. Vinca, by contrast, may have been more dispersed, and its symbolic system, though advanced, may have never reached the level of formalization needed to withstand societal collapse. Still, the implications of the Vinca signs remain profound. If they are indeed an early form of writing, or even a precursor to writing, it forces us to reconsider how and where the earliest sparks of civilization emerged. It suggests that the story of human literacy is not linear, not exclusive to Mesopotamia, and not a singular eureka moment. Instead, it may have been a convergent evolution, with multiple cultures exploring symbolic communication in parallel, some surviving, others lost to time. Today, the Vinca signs are more than just mysterious etchings. They are a challenge to orthodoxy, a reminder that human innovation may have roots deeper and more diverse than we've been led to believe. They whisper of a forgotten intelligence, one that dared to record, to encode, to give shape to thought long before the rest of the world was ready. Could it be that Europe once had its own first scribes, silently shaping clay into meaning as their settlements thrived along the Danube? If so, the history of writing doesn't begin in Sumer. It begins in Vinca,